Alright, in order to get everything fused together, we can use ZRemesher again. So under this geometry, we can do a ZRemesher, okay, and we can choose a fairly high resolution. So let's see if 512 is good enough or not. So we can just click on ZRemesher and take a look. It's going to go through the process of ZRemeshing again, and when you do ZRemesher, it's going to fuse the model together. Now this is what I got, okay, and then I can use smoothing. I can turn on the Sculptures Pro just to retopologize this part when I smooth, okay. Alright. So when I look at it, I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's too much of a density here. Let me Control Z to go back. Instead of 512, maybe I can choose to use 256. It's like half of the resolution, and try this again. Okay. Because Sculptures Pro is not very good on high density resolutions. When you use that, it's going to be really low performance. Okay. So this functionality exists for a very long time already, but they just never really bring it into ZBrush because of the performance issue they have. Like there is a performance hit when you dynamically change the topology while dealing with a huge geometry. It's almost like impossible to do. Okay, so anyway, let's smooth that out. Alright. But this is one thing we can do to make our life easier. But before I do that, actually, let's also make the foot blended together better. So I generally don't pay a lot of attention on the foot if I don't have a show. So everything around the foot is just going to be nice and smooth. But if you wanted to, you can cut in some more details on the foot and see what they're doing if you wanted to have the foot there. But just to save time, I'm going to ignore this part and make it just very simple geometry. Anyway, so after that combination, we have this body now, but it's really high resolution. So there is a way we can make our life easier by doing a ZRemesher. Okay, let me show you the process. So first of all, we can go to the body and say, let's duplicate it. Okay, after the duplication, you can see we have two of the bodies. And go down here to the geometry again. Now, right above or below the ZRemesher, you can see there is another one called ZRemesher. Okay, ZRemesher is a fancier ZRemesher. It does retopologize the model with the best it can do. It was designed to actually make the entire retopologize process automatic. It never really succeeds to do that, but it's good enough sometimes to give you a workable topology underneath it. So we can change the poly count to 5. I think that's okay. Let's try to ZRemesher it and see how does it looks like. Okay. Alright, if your model is dense, it's gonna take a while. You can see that's the progress bar here. When it reaches to the other end, then the ZRemesher will be done. Okay, so let me pause the video and go back when it's done. Alright, the ZRemesher is done. You can see now we have like a much simpler geometry. We can turn on the solo to take a look at it. You can see this is what the ZRemesher gives us. Okay, now this is not perfect topology, but it's workable. Okay, so what I can do here now is Control D to subdivide it to 3 times. Okay, and maybe one more time until I reach it's like millions of polygons, or maybe just somewhere around 1 million, if not over that, because I don't have a lot of detail to capture. After that, subdivision is Control D. Sorry about that. Let me Control D, go back. So what I did here is hit this divide button or Control D to subdivide it. What this does is basically giving the model more resolution and smooth out, even out the positioning of the new vertices, so that you're getting a smoother model. So I'm going to Control D one more time and one more time until I reaches that much of a polygon, somewhere around 1 million. And go down to Subtools, and then I can move this guy up and grab and one more unit up to the top, and then grab the old geometry and also move it up all the way to the top. So I have this one on the very top and the new one, the old one on the very top and the new one right beneath it. I'm also gonna add the head and the eyeball. So that leaves me just those two. Okay, let me turn off the solo. You can see we have only those two now. Okay, and then what I can do is go to the project and say project all. Right. What this does is basically projecting the information, the detail of the original mesh back down to the new mesh. Now this also may take a while, so I'm going to pause my video until that is done. Alright, the operation is done. Now you can see if you go ahead and add the old model and take a look at the new model, you can see the new model actually reflects every little thing we have on the old model, but it's a different geometry now. That also means we're done with the old model. We can basically say, I don't need you anymore. So let's select the old model and say delete and say, okay. Let's gonna just delete the old model. And now you can work on this new model. Alright, so about this new model has a very different structure. Let me get everything back actually. This new model is based on subdivision level. Back here to the geometry, you can see we have the subdivision here. You can drag it down to 1. You can see that's the low res, and then you can go up to all different levels to go to higher and higher resolution. This method is better for detailing any geometry. Now we're not moving on to detailing yet, but I can use that to help me refine the shape and refine the detail on the hand later on. For now, one more thing I want to do is I suddenly realized that this part is dipping in too much. Like I have mentioned that at the very beginning, but I didn't really fix it. So let me bump this part out, give it some more volume in the front. Okay. Alright, that feels better. Just go back in a little bit and smooth that out. One thing worth noticing is that the Sculptures Pro does not allow the subdivision level to be there, so it's going to be turned off. That's fine because subdivision level gives you a very good, the ZRemesher gives you a very good topology already for sculpting at least. And so you can easily just not use the Sculptures Pro at all because you don't really have to have a different topology while sculpting. And that also has to be based on a already good enough bigger shape and proportion, so you don't change bigger things anymore. Right? That's the perfect time you do this ZRemesher thing to get a subdivision level based sculpting model, and you can actually create far more detail than the Dynamesh and Sculptures Pro based sculpting. Okay. Anyway, so after that, we're gonna move on to the next video and really try to dip into the hand part, because we only inserted a hand, but it has many flaws. Right? The fingers are too thin. It doesn't have any characteristic, and it doesn't have any detail. Okay, so we're gonna move on to the hand. At least have the basic proportion right, and then maybe some detail, and then we can, move away from the body sculpting, and we can do something like rich topologizing. And then we can come back again and really trying to do some really smaller details like pores and wrinkles. But for now, let's do the hand in the next video. Okay, see you next time.